My husband asked what tonight was. I said, it's a regular
Yeah.
trustee meeting.
Nothing special about it.
Well, where's Jeff?
So it's 7 now. Should we, when we wait a little while longer for everybody else to connect in?
Sure. And Michael, I was thinking I can keep an eye on like the chat, and if anyone is trying to raise a hand or something like that, and I'll pipe up if it seems like someone's trying to speak in that way, because I know it can be hard to
That would be
keep
excellent.
an eye on
Thank
everything.
you.
Here's Mark.
Okay.
Hey, gang.
Hey,
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
all right. So let me just organize my screen here. Are we waiting for anybody else, or are we ready to call this meeting to order?
I think we can get started, and I'll keep
right.
letting people in from the waiting room as they show up.
Sure. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I was looking through the manual. We're supposed to give an opportunity to add or remove items per open meeting law. Any additions or subtractions?
Yeah, so toward the start somewhere, I'd like to just share a little bit about like meeting procedure. I had a little conversation with Laura Keenan, so maybe after community input, before we get started with other business, I can share what I got from that.
Sure. Okay. So we'll add that. And next item of business, we have the secretary report, and we need to approve the minutes from our last meeting, March 8th. So
Has everyone read them?
Do we want to actually start with community input?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there Kathy?
Hi, everyone. I actually had a public comment to make on the public comment period on the agendas. And maybe it'll come up, Anna, in your conversation about meeting procedures. But I was wondering, I appreciate that you have it on the beginning and the end. I just wonder if, especially in a Zoom meeting, if there can be some way to call on members of the community that are there. That's what the school board is doing. It's definitely not required. But if you were in a meeting room sitting at a conference table, you would be able to quickly tell if a member of the public had a question. But sometimes when people are on Zoom and their camera's off, it takes them a few seconds. But there was a community member at the special meeting last week who had her hand up on Zoom, the little hand icon, and nobody called on her. And the meeting was adjourned and people left. I stayed on with her, and she felt a little shortchanged that she didn't get to make her comment. So it's tricky. It's Zoom. You're not in person, but I just wonder if there's some way to really make sure that the public have a chance to say something if that's what they came for.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good point. I wonder if we, as we just did, designate somebody to really keep an eye, maybe on the chat and hand raising. Just we can do
yeah,
it by meeting at the beginning, if that makes sense.
I think that would be great. And also, yeah, I want to kind of, if someone is able to find the chat and put a note in there, or just say like, call on me, then that's fine. If someone wants to wave in the camera, that's fine. If they use the reaction, I'll try and keep an eye out for kind of all of those things. But yeah, I think if we can just give a little bit of a pause to make sure that folks have time to navigate that, I think that's a good idea. But for this meeting, I'll try and keep an eye on that. So if anyone would like to jump in, you can either post something in the chat or raise your hand, or use the reactions to raise a hand. Todd, I see your hand up. Or are you testing out the reaction?
Oh, I always have a reaction, Anna. Good to see a couple of you the other day at the Friends of the Library meeting. So a couple things. One, just from a sort of a bureaucratic standpoint, as someone who is the sort of the chair of another nonprofit radio station, that have kind of a liaison to, like when I think about the library, you've got the trustees of the library, you have the staff of the library, you now have what I assume is the former hiring committee of the library. And so you've got different entities, and Anita was at the meeting, and Anna, you were there. So is that, and Mariah was there. Is
And
that
Teresa.
and Teresa, so is that built in that the Friends of the Library have kind of a direct liaison when they have their meetings? Because that meeting is a little bit of a disjointed fashion. I know that there's not a president now, and that's waiting in a couple of weeks. So that's just kind of that continuing liaison thing is, I think, very important. And then to go to the Zoom with the radio station, I'm pretty much moving to saying, outdoor season is here. We can have in-person meetings with maybe Zoom as an option, or maybe Zoom is not necessarily an option, just something down the road that the board of the library might want to be thinking about. I think some of the complications that it has convenience, staying at home and, just kind of being, and maybe increased participation. But I'm always in favor, as long as everything is safe, of in-person participation.
If I can maybe respond to the first part of that and say, I think that my sense is that there's a lot of structure that needs to still be figured out. There's been a lot of turnover with the trustees. And so in terms of, I don't know what the kind of norms have been in the past between like the Friends group and the trustees. But I think that is something I would love to better understand. And I don't know how other trustees feel about that, but I also know that we're in like a little bit of a weird period of having several interim trustees, and maybe some of that should wait till after town meeting. But I don't know if other trustees have thoughts on that.
No, I agree, Anna. I I have not really been connected with the Friends of the Trustees, Friends of the Library. I was there on Saturday and missed the meeting. I was there for an appointment, but missed the meeting. But yeah, it'd be good to connect the Friends and the trustees. I think that's an important way to strengthen our community.
Todd, can I just ask a quick question? You had, your initial framing was about how community members can liaise with the library and the board, or?
No, it was just that structurally, and they're two separate entities. I know that the Friends of the Library is very different than the trustees of the library. And period, and And I know they're very helpful fundraising, and there were lots of great ideas. And I think that the fundraising is going to be pretty successful. And actually, now that the head count is in, there were a number of trustees there, and I didn't know if that was just coming voluntarily, or that some people serve both roles as a trustee and a friend of the library. But I think that connection definitely needs to be maintained.
I can just speak to, in the time that I've been involved, it's always kind of been where the trustees are involved with the friends. And as Anna said, I think with we've had a lot of movement on the board and really won't be settled into a full term board until after the town meeting. But I personally attended out of free will. And I was very happy to see the other trustees there. And I think that we have some real good forward motion. That was a nice turnout at the Friends. And I think that's a great point, Todd. And I think maybe moving forward, something the trustees should make sure we don't let slip, because I know in past practice, it has been a good connection between the two groups.
We also had, whenever there was any kind of art exhibit or winter evenings at the library, trustees were usually present. I thought that was good too, because then you know what's going on at the library, you're a participant, and most of the events are pretty wonderful at the library. And that was another role that we all went into, I felt, on top of this one you're speaking of with the Friends.
Great. Any other thoughts? With specific reference to in-person meetings, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. When can we do it? How do we do it safely? I think one of the challenges may be these meetings since I've been participating in them are pretty small, but you need to be able to predict to some extent so that you can observe protocols and so forth. But I wonder if, I don't know, as it warms up more, if we can put it as an item to revisit on the agenda.
Maybe we can also keep that in mind. I think later on today's agenda, we're talking about that more in terms of library programming, but we can keep that in mind for our meetings as well.
Any other comments?
I will just say there was an email to the trustees in regards to the outdoor gardens. And I did reply to that community member and said I would mention it at the community input piece. And it's great to have interest. Right now, it's a volunteer kind of maintenance thing done by Eileen Ahern. And I think that actually Jean and I had a conversation about this of maybe, working on getting a crew together that can learn about the plants that are there and also help with the upkeep and care of them. So I'll just put that out there, and might be something we can revisit as we move into real planting season here. Those last few days weren't real. Now we're in the real. But just for community input, someone is interested in the upkeep of the gardens around the library.
I saw that email too, Teresa, and asking about manure and putting down manure donated by Rob Howe, and I'd be willing to spend some time on a Saturday to dig in the dirt. I mean, that's you can certainly count on me to spend some time but I think it should be structured. But I'm certainly willing to spend some time maintaining the grounds. If we can kind of come up with a schedule for that, or more structured scheduling for that, but I'd certainly want to be involved.
Okay. Any other pieces of community input. All right, and nothing in the chat. All right.
No.
So we'll move on to the secretary's report.
All right, I have here approving minutes from March 8th. Do we
Yep.
have those minutes? I mean, I didn't even see them, so I do have the minutes from the last meeting on the 5th.
So it should be, I thought I saw them online, but I had to have to go back to the library website. Let's see if I can do that.
There is something posted on the library website for March 8th.
And does it indicate that it is a draft?
It does not indicate that it's a draft.
So it's been approved, is that right?
I believe March 8th was our last regular trustee meeting. And
Yep.
then we have 2 sets of minutes to approve because we had the special meeting in between the 2. So that should be considered a draft for the March 8th, which was our last regular trustee meeting. And I believe Anna you were not with us yet. No.
Was I there? I don't even remember. I just had the COVID shot, so I don't even know if I was there. I can't even remember.
You
Uh,
were there, Anita, it looks
I
like.
think you were, yeah, you were there.
I have a
wa-
copy. I have a copy of it here. And,
I'm sorry.
It looks like Fern was also there though, so she may have been the one drafting it.
Thank you.
And I have some notes here saying what I went in and just made some edits for accuracy. So I don't know if we are able to approve them now, or do we need to wait until everyone has a thorough chance to look them over?
I mean, I think probably people should look them over if you haven't, and maybe we just wait a week to approve them once everybody has gone online to take a peek.
I apologize.
No, it's all right. So,
I have the April 5th ones, if you'd like to go over that.
yeah, so before we do that, so I'm just gonna move to postpone approval of the March 8th minutes till our next meeting after everybody has a chance to review them.
Seconded.
Okay. And then has everybody reviewed the April 5th meeting notes? That was our special hiring meeting.
So if I can actually, I think if we make a motion and second, then I think we need to actually vote on that just as procedure.
You're right,
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah. So is there any comment before voting on that? Okay.
No, I would just say that I have the rough draft of those minutes and some notes. So if anyone had any questions on the March 8th meeting, I might be able to answer them.
So, is the document that's posted online includes your notes?
Yes.
Your notes.
Okay.
Okay. And everybody can easily access them online, or should?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Okay.
Do we want to vote on that motion then?
So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So moving on to April 5th special meeting minutes, and I think everybody said, just speak up if you didn't have a chance to review them. Okay. Any changes or concerns or comments? Okay. So motion to approve the minutes from the April 5th special meeting.
Aye.
So we had a second,
Seconded.
okay? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now, anything else before we move on? Because Jeff was gonna talk to us a little bit about the website updates. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about under secretary report that we need to address? All right. Oh. Okay. Hi, Jeff. You have to unmute it. You have to unmute. I'm also impressed that you're in your car somewhere.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, this is lovely West Lebanon, the McDonald's parking lot. So, so thank you for having me. And I just I'm happy to answer any questions about the work I've done on posting agendas, minutes, videos. I think you can see going through what I've done where things are missing. So I don't know if there's a way to access past agendas, especially those generally weren't posted on the website. But what I had done is comb through what was there and converted them into documents and posted them.
Are there ever times where there's like an attached document maybe that's shared in a meeting, and would that, in those cases, could there be an additional link to a PDF of any documents shared?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if it's part of the minutes of the meeting, it would probably be just one document to look at. But
Okay.
If you're kind of delving into an issue like the hiring committee did, I know I've been working, I also do the town website, and the planning commission's been posting a lot of material for talk about the legal trails. So we've created kind of a section with information that people can look at. So a nice thing about a website is that it's very dynamic and can, be added to or subtracted from as time goes on. But just one thing with minutes and agendas is that, by law, you're required to post minutes within 5 calendar days of the meeting. And, they can be labeled draft. And then once the board has reviewed them and approved them, you can replace the minutes with the approved minutes. So my work with, boards in town, some are more kind of on board with that more than others. The select board is very good about posting those things. And with remote, it's my understanding in reading what the League of Cities and Towns has posted, their recordings of meetings also need to be posted in a timely fashion as we're remote. If there's, once you're meeting in person and, if there's no recording, I don't think there is a requirement, but that's my reading of what the VCLT has posted on their website.
Sorry, Jeff, can you just say that part again? Is that part of the open meeting laws that a recording needs to be posted for a virtual meeting?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
So the way I've done it with the select board, the way the select board and the planning commission have it set up is that the Zoom recordings are recorded in the cloud. And once, what we found early on is that you can't leave them there because Zoom will delete them after a while. So what I basically do is download that file and post it to a YouTube channel that the town has. So now they're all kind of collected there for everyone to see.
I will say that my understanding was I didn't have, I'm just getting to know the open meeting laws. So I didn't know that that the recordings were necessary, and that wasn't the path that we took with the hiring committee. but that's something that I think is worth it for us to double check on. The trustee meetings have been recorded, and maybe then going forward, we just got access to a Google Drive folder for the trustees to organize our stuff in, and maybe that's a good place. I can save a copy of the recording there just to make sure that it doesn't get misplaced or deleted by Zoom. So I'll start to do that along with the recordings. And there's a nice thank you message from Kathy in the chat. Says the website looks great.
Yeah, which it does. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. You really were very patient with catching us up. Is there any way you want to instruct us on, like, specifically getting the agenda or the minutes? Has that been working so far?
Yeah, you know, I basically I'm the conduit to the website. So, you know, once something's ready to go, if one of you can email it to me, generally a PDF or a Google Doc works better than a Word document, just for where, you know, what I try to do with all of these is get them online as quickly as possible. So if I'm away from a computer at home, I can do it on my laptop with a PDF or a Google Doc. A Word doc, I have to convert it somewhere, you know, on a different computer. So, you know, once those are ready to go, you know, if it's, you designate one person to email me, that generally works best.
And Anita, do you think that most likely will be you from the secretary position?
All right, that sounds good.
Good, okay. Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. I brought this up, you know, with Teresa, is that I don't know if the agendas especially have been kept over the past few years as pieces of paper, but I'm also happy to scan those and convert them to PDFs and get those posted.
Do we think that there's a copy of those anywhere?
I've been finding bits and pieces here and there. I'll continue to search around. And as I get them, I'm just sharing them with Jeff to fill in those blanks. But I think it's amazing you went back all the way to 2014. That's great. So we do have, at least the minutes, I think, are pretty accurate. But sure, if we come across any more pieces, we can send them along.
Okay.
Okay, any other items? So, just to be clear, so Anita is going to be Jeff's point of contact for future agendas. And sorry, someone referenced the Google shared drive. That's the library drive?
Yeah, so I had asked Mariah to give us access to that because the hiring committee had access to a drive, and it was just really helpful to have one place. It's hosted by the Tunbridge Library Gmail address so that it doesn't need to be under any of our individual Gmail addresses. And it looks like it actually was set up quite a while ago, but was used very sporadically. And so there are some much older documents and folders that are in there. There's a folder that says meetings and agendas, but from I think years ago. So I think we can figure out how we want to arrange that. But then we just, you know, can have a place where we know that whether it's onboarding information for new trustees or other documents, we can have it all there.
Yeah. Mariah, did you, I don't recollect seeing a link or an invitation to that folder.
Oh, I did share it with you.
I'll have to double check. That's fine.
Okay, and if you still didn't get it, let me know. I mean, or anyone know. We can share it with you.
And the other question, so everybody can access Google Docs, yeah? Okay,
Yes, no problem.
okay. Any other items under secretary report? I thought I saw a comment pop up, but I'm not sure.
From
Todd
Todd.
made a comment that the planning commission's page with the extra documents for the legal trails has been done really well. So I think that that is something to keep in mind if there's any like special project, if there's, you know, a strategic plan being worked on, if there are special documents like that, maybe that's a time to then build out a specific section so that the relevant documents are easily accessible to the public.
Yeah. All right. Treasurer's report.
Say goodbye, Jeff. Thank you. I don't think he's going to stay in the parking lot all night.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Enjoy your McDonald's.
Okay, so for the treasurer's report, things look to be in pretty good order. We do have the initial statement from Jeff that'll show up probably on the April. And then going forward, not sure if I shared the contract with the board because when I was doing it, this wasn't the board necessarily. But I could probably forward that so that everyone understands the arrangement there. And we also had Brocklebank Plumbing in. They have replaced the water heater, the pressure tank, and did some needed work on a sink. And it was a reasonable bill, well within the budget. So those two will show up on April's warrant. We had $2,106 as income this time. Bulk of that was in donations. One generous donation of $1,500 and then another $150 and then $30 for book replacement, which we also put under donations.
How much was that total, Teresa?
The total was $2,106, which is pretty significant for this time of year, since the fund letter is pretty much winding down. I do have the monthly warrant, which I'm still kind of getting my feet on the ground being the treasurer. And it's my understanding that I'm to share the warrant with the trustees after the meeting, and we do need to have 3 signatures, and then it goes on to the select board and they pay the bill, or they allow the treasurer to go ahead and pay the bill. So I will send that around. I also share it with the librarian. I was able to share it with Jean this afternoon. The question I have is, what's the best way to get the signatures? Because everyone needs to see the warrant. All 5 trustees should see the warrant. And for those who may not have an understanding, the warrant is basically a printed page with all of the bills that have come to the library during the month. So we're looking at March's. You have the fuel bill, Dead River, you have the phone, the internet, the power, and then any other miscellaneouses in addition to, which is pretty standard, the MasterCard is the book order.
Well, Teresa, I'll just speak for myself. When you forward an email with a PDF, I just print it out, sign it, and then scan it back to myself and forward it to you. That's been working really well for me, but if you want to change things, that's fine. But that's been working really well for me to just sign a PDF and then re-email it to you. Does that work?
Right. Because we have the two things that will need the signatures monthly are the timesheets, which need to be signed at the end of the month. They don't wait for the meeting.
Right.
Because the employees need to be paid. And actually, well, it'll come up later, but we're going to be doing one weekly as well coming up. And then the warrant is just a once a month thing. So I know on the last round of timesheets, we ended up with 2 signatures. I never quite got the third one. So I'm not sure where that broke down. But I'm open to suggestions from people who are more familiar with this electronic passage. It wasn't that long ago, but we used to just put a folder at the library and you would take turns popping in and signing.
I mean, that's what I was going to
I'm
say.
just saying that
That's-
email works great for me.
So Anna, on that one document we just did, that went very quickly for you and you just returned it to me.
Yeah, so I have an electronic signature that I can put onto a PDF, and I tried to sneak in and get that then reshared in case anyone else wanted to add a signature to that.
course.
So I can
Okay.
typically also do that. Yeah.
Well, whoever I'll send it out, and then if it could be returned to me, then I'll make sure it gets to Becky, the timesheets and the warrant. So I'll just send it out to everyone and see that it comes back, and I should get my signatures.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
It works for me.
I also think it would probably be helpful if I could send you the warrant before the meeting so that you would be able to look at it. And then if you had any questions, and then the signing would happen after the meeting.
And so you need 2 signatures for the monthly, for the warrant, yeah? 3, not including you.
I mean, I could be one of
Yeah.
them, but you need,
Gotcha.
but everything looks good. We're fiscal year ends at the end of June. So I think for the next meeting, I'm going to be prepared to have sketched out those 3 remaining months to see that we're on target with staying within budget on all of the categories, payroll, maintenance, books, all of the things that are pertinent. Did I have anything else? Nope, just the signatures, the timesheets, and the warrant being returned. Any questions?
So I just want to make sure we know what we need to do going forward. So you're going to email out the warrant, 3 signatures, and then the timesheets are going to, do we know who's going to sign those, or?
I personally would like all the trustees to see the timesheets.
Sure.
And I guess when they're returned to me, you know, if by the time they come to you, they already have enough signatures, at least you are, you know, receiving the information from the timesheets.
Perfect. So maybe we'll just make sure when you see, if we can all agree, when you see either of those documents, to put your signature on it. That way you'll know you've reviewed it and we'll get enough signatures.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay with everybody? Great.
I just quickly want to thank Becky, the town treasurer. She has been such a help while I transitioned back into treasurer, and with the hiring process and the salary pieces and everything that went into that. And I just want to publicly really thank her. She's been amazing, and she's never tired of me calling or popping in, and she's just been great. So
Nice.
I'll leave it at that.
That's great. Okay.
So
Anything else?
If I can actually jump in then, if the treasurer's report is done. So Kathy mentioned some stuff in the chat, and I want to just jump in with a little bit about kind of meeting procedure before we get too much further. So one, since the meeting is being recorded, hopefully everyone was able to see that at the beginning of the meeting, but I think that we should try and remember to, we need to remember to tell people that. Kathy also looked up, and she looked where I had looked in the Secretary of State site, and it does not specifically say that meetings need to be recorded. I think that there's an argument that, you know, why not record them when we're doing this? But it sounds like maybe the Vermont League of Cities and Towns has some different advice that is more for legislative bodies and doesn't necessarily apply to us. But maybe we can decide that that will be our best practice to record meetings. And then the other part that kind of came up at the last meeting, and which I spoke with Laura Keenan about, was whether Robert's Rules needs to be the procedure that's followed. And she actually says, and it's in the trainings online, which if anyone wants to go to the Vermont Department of Libraries, they have some great info there for trustees, but open to anyone to look at. It's not required unless in our bylaws we say that that's the procedure that needs to be followed. We don't need to actually follow Robert's Rules. Her recommendation is a more general parliamentary procedure. She said that the important part, you absolutely have to follow Vermont open meeting laws. But in terms of how the actual meeting is run, she said the important part is that if it is something that needs to go into the minutes, one way to make sure that something is going into the minutes, or if you're making a decision and making a directive rather than a suggestion, then that should be a motion followed by a second, followed by a vote. She said that oftentimes the discussion will happen before the motion is even made. That's okay, but and so I also, following on this, then I tried to find a copy of the bylaws for the library, and the last copy, Teresa was able to find a copy that was sort of an undated copy that was included as a draft in a meeting that was in 2019. It's a little bit unclear what it's a draft from, if it was a accurate copy that was then maybe going to be built off of, or if not. So I think unless we, and I did run into Jean this weekend at the library, and she agreed that that was probably a fairly recent, accurate copy of the bylaws. But it looks like there are some gaps in that, because it doesn't designate anything for the meeting procedure. And so that's any revisions to the bylaws. Laura said, come back to her. There's a very specific procedure for how that happens. And that's a much bigger project, but just putting a pin in that maybe after town meeting, when there's a permanent group of trustees, that should be something that we come back to make sure that the bylaws are complete, have all the info that they ought to have, because it seems like there are maybe some gaps there. So yeah, any questions about that in terms of like meeting procedure though?
Not at this time. I think as we see construction and development, we might have questions, but.
Yeah, Anna, just to speak to that, the bylaws, when those were passed to me, when I just came on in January, I did a little research, and you can find some conversation about them in the minutes, and that's how I kind of narrowed it down to that date. And I may have even found a document that actually had that as a draft, but I don't believe it was ever finalized. And there's definitely, I do agree that waiting until we make the final shift and get full-term board members on board, it would be, I would think, a top priority to get that in order.
Yeah. Okay. That was all that I wanted to share.
Great, thanks.
So we'll do our best with knowing that there are some gaps in our own guidance.
Thank you.
ourselves.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay, moving on to old business. We have some updates regarding our energy audit. We heard a little bit about that already from Teresa, but anything else you'd like to tell us, Teresa?
So the water heater, it really has been ongoing for years now, so it really needed to be addressed. And Ben was good enough to come in, and he did replace the point of use water heater. The pressure tank was a surprise. While he was working, it failed, and so that had to happen. And the lavatory faucet was not in the plans either. Poor Jean came in one day to find more water in places it shouldn't have been. So he took care of all of that. But the water heater was the recommendation in the energy audit. So we felt comfortable moving forward with that. The previous secretary treasurer had put it into the budget. So financially, it was not an issue. So that piece is done. And I did speak with Todd, and maybe he would like to chime in. The last time we talked with the board on the energy audit, we talked about having maybe some what we Todd calls low-hanging fruit, I suppose, with things that we could kind of chip away at. And we did have some outlines of plans. Todd, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and I'm going to give Henry Swayze, a notable figure in Tunbridge. A lot of people use that term, but he uses it all the time. So low-hanging fruit, meaning things that can be done, particularly for efficiency by volunteers that are not that expensive. And I think the one thing that Teresa referred to in an email to me and was discussed with the gentleman from Efficiency Vermont was in the old basement section of the building to in the floor. So from underneath, either staple, I'm not sure what the best insulation would be, but probably an R, whatever the R factor is, there's a lot of air getting up in there. To insulate the stone, the slab walls would be a little more pricey, but that was also recommended by Efficiency Vermont. Checking on the windows. And I think the other major thing, Teresa, was that third floor, which Mariah has into that area. At least from what I can tell, it's mainly there for storage of books and also some of those window inserts that the Energy Committee put in a number of years ago, which many of those could be put back into place. So basically tightening the building up as much as possible. I don't have a budgetary figure for that, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. I think we have some experienced volunteers that would help with that. So that's kind of nail sketch of low-hanging fruit. And maybe I missed something, Teresa, but that's what I'm recalling.
The only other thing that I think is a pretty easy fix is to unplug the freezer and the refrigerator, and see about updating that. But those I remember Paul, what the energy was like. They red flagged him. They're not Energy Star, so that would be something that we may be able to address. But I could, we could do some math and find out what the best product is, and maybe get some people in before next winter and see if we can get that under that basement floor done, and be a good place to start that, and sealing off the upstairs until it can be dealt with. The good news is, and maybe Mariah can speak to this more, and Todd, you too were in on, there's all sorts of monies going to become available in different forms from federal and state. And I think we're in a really good position. We've already done the energy audit. We kind of know where our needs are. Mariah?
Yeah, I know that the state money, I believe, is like underway to come through, and it's a huge sum of money. And I've gone to a few meetings from Jason Broughton about how they're going to be divvied out, and they're still deciding, but it's somewhere around $10 million for Vermont libraries, and that's pretty incredible. And then there's also a huge federal, it's a good time to be a library, really. There's like so much money coming towards us. And then we've also even got the town 1,800, which is minimal comparatively speaking, but there's a lot of different options and ways that they're hoping that people use the money. And Teresa and I filled out the survey about what we felt like were some of the higher needs, and it was pretty exciting. So.
Do we have a stated budget for energy upgrades?
Teresa, you're muted.
there are line items, and you know, this would be a great one to put in the shared folder that we have, because we do have line items. There is maintenance.
Yeah.
We have increased it a little bit because we knew this hot water heater was an ongoing issue. But if you go back and look at the minutes over the last easily 3 years, it just constantly talks about how the furnace is like, why is it even still working? It just so that was something that was addressed in the energy audit also, and that would be a big budget item we would have to work towards. And just so everyone has a full understanding, anything inside the library with the interior of the building is the library's budget responsibility. Anything on the exterior of the building can fall to the town. So when we're talking about furnaces, that's going to hit the budget of the library. If you're talking about exterior issues, which I'm not sure where windows and things like that fall, but certainly trim or, you know, painting or things like that would go to the town.
And just say on the energy front, I did take a look at the roof on the newer, I would say, I think it was 2001 that the main part of the newer structure was built. I forget what year. And the two roofs that are not, either of them are not facing due south, but the potential there for solar is, at least for libraries use, is fairly significant. I would suggest, I'm not on the board, I would suggest getting a local solar installer to, ahead of a possible grant application. We don't know. Mariah will probably get the first word. Maybe the town will. But if something comes through where funding is available for infrastructure for town responsible buildings, that possible solar there at the library on those two roofs would be a distinct possibility, and to have some sort of a rough quote in hand would be a pretty good idea, and it's not that difficult to do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, you know, I wonder if we can maybe get estimates on, I'm looking at page 3 on the energy audit, just estimates on some of the outstanding stuff, just to get a sense of, you know, what's maybe relatively easy to do, what's more costly, and what's really going to require some thought. And, you know, as Todd points out, there may be other projects such as solar. You know, I just look at it briefly and I'm wondering, like, you know, does it cost a lot of money to install smart thermostats? Probably not. You know, so there are some items we can probably address pretty quickly, and it might just be helpful to know that it's, you know, it's going to be $150 and the state's giving $100 rebate, you know. And then,
So one of those maybe the biggest ticket item would be was it Paul from Efficiency Monitors? I think he said, yeah, Paul, that a central heat pump that could use the existing ductwork that would be very effective during the shoulder seasons, kind of September, October, November, and then maybe picking up again in March. So you would still need the new furnace, which is another big ticket number item. Yeah. But if that's all still in process, and the opportunity to possibly send in a grant for something like that, which is way ahead of kind of the timeline that we were talking about, which might be 2, 3, 4 years out, could end up affecting a decision type of replacement furnace you put. If you're dependent on a new furnace for all of your heat, then it becomes where, well, we really only need to use that full time from, you know, early November to early March, because the heat pump can handle everything else. So just there's a lot of, you know, sort of things to just provisionally be ready for.
Yeah, and I think that getting an estimate on the furnace might be a good way to go too. I do believe that our Efficiency Vermont contact said that there's one, you do have to have a backup, like you can't rely just on electric, because if your power's out, so you have to have a backup source. So I think he referenced a propane combination heat pump, which was something brand new to me. I hadn't heard of that technology. But I'd be glad to kind of follow through with that. Does everyone have access to that energy audit now? No, okay. I can share it with the board, and I'm wondering if, I don't know, Mariah, do you think it would be appropriate to put it on the website for just general public? I mean, it's,
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
it's a, you know, he did a real nice job writing it up, and, you know, maybe some community members would get excited about it and see potential for you know, the improvements that could be made. So maybe that would be one way to put it out there. But I'll be glad to try and think about what things on the list, Michael, that maybe we could be looking at and get some estimates for next month.
Yeah, feel free to shoot me a line if you want some help reaching out to people to do that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Well, that's all very exciting. Okay, anything else on the energy audits or thoughts, ideas related to efficiency upgrades? All right. Let's move on then, if that's okay. And we'll get Mariah, you're going to post the energy audit. We'll make it available. Cool. So I wanted to turn, now we're going to do updates from library staff. What I have on the agenda is, you know, it's wide open, but I'm particularly curious, as I'm sure we all are, how it's going post partial reopen.
I could be wrong, but did we skip the 2 sections on the, you know, on the meeting agenda
If we
here?
did, I apologize. I'm looking at the one I have saved hard copy. Hold on, give me a second.
Okay. The one on the website had the librarian report after the treasurer report, and then the committee report after that, and then old
Yep.
business.
What I'm looking at is energy audit updates, and then update from library staff, but we can go in whatever order makes sense for you.
Oh, I'm fine with updating. I just wanted to make sure, because I clicked on it from the website, and maybe that was why.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one on the website now, I think.
Am I?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there's the librarian report and the committee report before old business.
I have that one
Oh,
too.
you're so right. You're so right. My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jean probably, you should unmute now, Jean.
Sorry, Jean.
Jean, you're still muted.
You got to click on the little microphone on the
There you go.
bottom left.
There you go.
Mm,
Oh, you muted yourself again. There. Still can't hear you though.
Jean, we can't hear you. It does look like you're unmuted, but we can't hear anything.
I wonder, do your headphones have a microphone on them as well? Okay, you may want to try just unplugging them and using your computer microphone and volume. Just give it a shot.
Does that work?
That work?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate that. On the Google Doc is my report to the town, which is also, even though it has all your names at the bottom, it is also a report to you. And I have been very privileged to be librarian for this time, and I'm just thrilled to turn it over to Mariah. And since Mariah has been doing the programming and the majority of the public, serving the public, I think that she should give the current library report.
I'm gonna make Marcia scooch away so that she can still hear me, but I want to take my mask off. Well, of course, I want to start and say thank you to Jean. Jean likes to always remind me that when we first met, like we kind of knew that we like connected, of course, originally on Three Boys. I mean, that's just a connection that you automatically have to have with someone, and only people with Three Boys can understand. And then beyond that, just a love of this library and this community. And I'm just so crazy honored to be having worked with Jean and Marcia for all, I mean, I just can't even tell you, it's been the best thing I can possibly imagine. So I don't cry, I'll just move right into what's been going on at the library. So this last weekend, we had the art project for Generation Connect, the second round of it, where we read Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Graceland, and it was really awesome. The discussions the week before were wonderful. The perspective of, we had every decade represented from zero, well, like, the 0 to 10 to 80. And I thought that was just so awesome. I really loved that. And it showed in the conversations. People had some really wonderful insights. And so that was really exciting. And then I brought someone's painting. We all made one of these, which was really cool. Someone even painted theirs on the South Royalton Green. They used the Wi-Fi down there. And I thought, you need to put up a sign that says Tunbridge Library Programming, your good advertisement. But they all came out great, and you all can look for, I think it's the last Sunday in April, which I can't remember the date of that right now, but we're setting up an art display at the co-op. So all of the programming that we've been doing virtually will be displayed there between Story Hour and even Lego Club. We're making plants that grow out of the wall so they can be hung. And yeah.
The 25th.
Okay, so I'm setting it up the 25th. Marcia looked at the calendar. And so that's going to be, I think that's going to be really special to have that there. And I think it's perfect timing too to really show people what the library did when the doors were closed in preparation for town meeting, which wasn't my intention. It just really worked out. So I think that the next thing's just the regular programming has been going great. I definitely can see when the days are really sunny and warm, less kids come, which makes me really, really happy. I'm not offended in any way that they don't want to sit in front of a screen when they could go outside and play. I'm like thrilled about that. So I know last summer I took off for some of the virtual programs during the summer months because of that. And that worked out really well. It wasn't worth, well, maybe it was worth it. The kids really loved the one or two that would show up, but I think it would make more sense to maybe drop off the chapter book club or something that's not getting as much attendance. As far as the appointments go, it's been awesome. We've been having, I think that it caught on much faster this time than the last time we did appointments, maybe because people are more comfortable going out, maybe because they understood how to do the appointments already, but we've had a steady stream of people every single.
Desperate for human contact.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, someone came in today, he was like, I'm not even really looking to check out a book. So we're like, that's fine, that's great. So that's been really wonderful to see people and have them in here. And of course, the highlight has been letting children sit in our golden chair for celebrating reading milestones. And I know it's a tiny screen, but I wanted to show you all the bulletin board because I started it and it's looking really good. So yep, it's gonna be, I can't find what kind of marker will write on these. So I will write what the milestone is when I find the right marker. And we're trying to figure out where to best hang the bulletin board right now. And the kids really like that. And I'm excited too. I'm bringing the golden chair to the school the week after break. I'm going to bring it to the second, first, and kindergarten classes. I won't be letting them sit in it because COVID, and also because we'll bring them in, we'll get them to want to come to the library and sit in the chair. So I'll have to bring a stuffed animal or something so that they don't feel tempted. Let's see, what else did we say? That was, oh yeah. And I don't know, Teresa, if this is the appropriate time to talk about the hours switching. Would this make sense now?
I think it'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Teresa and I were talking about how, well, it's not like it's new business because we've discussed it and there's been surveys and there's been lots of talk about offering daytime hours, and Jean was often, Monday mornings were the time that she was always here anyways, or well, Jean's always here, let's be honest, she's always working. But we think, I'm proposing that we start the daytime hours, as soon as possible, perhaps even next week. And Marcia and I have decided that what would best fit us is that I could do the 10 to 2 and Marcia could do 2 to 6. And Teresa has volunteered to come in whenever I do the outreach, because that would be the day that I would go to the school, because I've already connected with Michael Livingston about doing regular outreach to the school. And so if everybody feels good about that, it doesn't really change things much other than a slightly earlier closing time, which is easy with the appointments. No one will be confused about that because you won't be able to make an appointment. So we'll kind of get them used to the hours without even really trying.
Just Monday.
Yeah, just on Mondays to switch this, and then, keep the hours Wednesday, Friday, 3 to 7 and Saturday 9 to 12. But to offer 10 to 5 essentially on Mondays. So I don't know if that's something that needs to be voted on, or.
Is that 10 to 6 then, Mariah?
Oh, yeah, sorry, 10 to 6.
No, that's good. Good.
Can we, does anyone have questions about that, or should we make a motion to allow that?
So just to clarify, Mariah, you're talking basically just open hours or shifting the time that people make appointments? You're talking open hours, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about whether or not you'd keep a head count then? I mean, probably.
Oh, no. As of now, I'm just recommending having appointments available during this time. I mean, I can't wait until, yes, I can't wait for that, but I wasn't going to push it, one step at a time.
Like the cutting edge of rolling back COVID.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant.
The current Monday is 9 till noon and then reopens 3 to 6.
But we aren't open for appointment 9 to noon right now currently, because, just Jean was here, and prior to her being vaccinated, that didn't feel safe. So we hadn't switched that. And so now we're just proposing to have the appointments start at 10 and then end a little bit early than we have been doing at 6. And Marcia and I will split that day up.
So I'd like to then make a motion that we allow the library to open for appointments from 10 to 6 on Mondays, as per the library staff's suggestion.
And Mariah, what would the start date be on that?
Do you all like starting the 19th?
Yeah. Is that
So
would
making a motion for that to start on the 19th.
that would give you the staffing you need.
Yep.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
In a second.
Kathy, I think, sorry, so Kathy's asking, would the hours need to be voted on, or is that a director decision? I think I don't know that it needs to be voted on. The understanding that I had from Laura was just that when in doubt, make a motion and do a vote so that something gets kind of recorded. And so I think if Mariah is asking for us to weigh in on that, then there's no harm in doing that. And it doesn't need to be a specific agenda item to have a vote for that. Since it's
I guess
within-
the reason why I'm asking is because it's set it feels to me a little bit like it sets a precedent for business that may be not really required for a board of trustees to vote on.
For future references.
I'm putting it out there to really think about. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit, and I just had this moment of the trustees need to vote on this. I just had a moment of that because I was like, that's, you know, it's one thing if it's about COVID.
Understandable.
But so anyway, I'm just thinking about library staff needing to wait every month for a board meeting to make decisions of what happens in the library building that don't feel like they require trustee approval. Just putting it out there as food for thought. I hear what Lara is saying. I'm not sure that she's the authority on all things about bylaws and voting. I know she's a great resource, but I would just really be thoughtful about what you need to vote on and what you don't need to not micromanage too much.
I mean, a good point, right? I'm sort of inclined to say the library, people who work there know their hours and need to work with their respective schedules and hours, and presumably they do that within their own sort of, you know, they manage themselves as far as that's concerned, unless there's a major issue.
No, it's a good point though, because there were a few instances that I've experienced where we had to call a special meeting for something that I mean, I'm not sure. So I think it is good to consider, you know, that not to be like, don't tell me what to do. That's not what I mean. But I think the hours I have heard from other librarians in Sharon and that those are voted on typically, but I like, you know, I like what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it if, like, you know, suddenly it was, the decision was, let's close the library down and be open only half the time we were open previously. But I don't know, these little micro adjustments to make it early, you know, there are people here with way more expertise than I related to this, but.
Well, that's great. That sounds good. We look forward to doing some daytime hours. And I like, I've talked to a lot of people around town with really young children, and they're very excited to be able to bring them into the library during those hours. And I think it's going to be a really positive thing for us to be able to offer that right now. We'll see. And then just the last thing I wanted to point out, in case any of you wanted to drum up some enthusiasm, is the third generation connect. We're signing up for that still, and I've been working with Elizabeth Morrison, the Chelsea public librarian. It's been really fun to connect with her. She's
wonderful.
Yeah, she's super helpful, and we work together to create these bags and to get this book club started. And so we're having 10 people from Chelsea and 10 people from Tunbridge, and hopefully, you know, have some good conversation together and also enjoy a really cool Chinese calligraphy class.
Cool.
Yes, and you can sign up for the class alone if you want
Sure,
to.
of course. Yep. Sorry, my disregard.
Very excited. That's good. I'm glad. And we have lots of supplies for that part of the project. So yeah, definitely. If you're talking with anyone, we haven't gotten as many people to sign up yet, which I'm not sure why. So
I'll message you about that later, Mariah.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
I'm dropping hints.
Stuff for that.
Yeah. And also one last thing, I guess, is that Anna and I know Teresa's got plans to, and I know Cecily, Michael's wife, they wrote haikus, and was thinking it would be really fun to have a trustee haiku page for the, I mean, we're having this display during town meeting, so it could be really fun if you're feeling inspired by spring and want to write a little 575. So yeah, go for it if you feel like it. Spread the word. Now I'll be done.
Fun.
Todd, I see your hand up. Do you want to chime in with something?
I don't quite have my haiku ready, but I'm working on it. So yeah, just about the hours of the library, I know there's the signboard and the TQ and everything. So you were mentioning 10 to 6 on Mondays. So will the other appointment hours during the week, is it possible to run through those now for the record? And then will it be put up on the website and we'll have knowledge of changes? Yeah.
So starting next week, the library hours will be 10 to 6 on Mondays. You can make an appointment, half-hour increments, 10 to 6 on Mondays, 3 to 7 Wednesdays, 3 to 7 Fridays, and 9 to 12 Saturdays with the walk-up window for dump tickets.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll post that in all the places.
Great.
And you're continuing, Mariah, to do curbside pickup book orders if people still choose to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I can definitely see that being something that continues in the future. I know, particularly for families with young kids, it can be fun to come into the library, but sometimes it's overwhelming. So just like, give me a stack of books. A lot of people have continued to just want that instead. So yes.
Okay. Anything else, librarian wise? Great. So we're moving on to the, hopefully I don't skip lines this time, the committee report. There's also a subject heading under new business for that, but
Yeah. Well,
just summarize.
so I think we can get into the new business part afterwards, but just as a brief committee update, we did notify other candidates that the search is closed. I believe, it's taken off the website. Is that right, Teresa, or do we need to? Yeah. And yeah, so I think that in terms of the work that the committee is doing, I believe that is wrapped up now.
And I saw the minutes are on the website. Great. Okay. Anything else? Or we'll cover the meat when we get down to new business. All right. So my apologies. We did energy audits already, right? And so Mariah, under old business, and Jean and Marcia, there's a specific to the reopening, any issues?
No, we don't have any issues really.
It's gone really well.
I have a quick question. On Google, when you Google Tunbridge Library, Vermont, it says temporarily closed still. I have not the slightest idea how to change that.
When did you check that?
Just before the meeting started.
Really? Oh, darn, because I just started a business Gmail and I thought I changed it all. So I'll put that on my list of things to do. Yeah, sorry.
Well, glad to hear it went off flawlessly. It's been a godsend for our family, that's for sure. So thank you guys. The next item relates to resuming outdoor in-person programming, book sale, meetings in the community room.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I just was feeling a little apprehensive because I had booked an in-person outdoor program for June under the assumption that we could do that in June. And then I thought I should reel that in and make sure that that's something everyone feels comfortable COVID wise, that we did it last summer, hula hoops, everyone, and it went really smoothly. There was a lot of, I can't remember what the order was last summer, but I think it was like 25 people could meet outside And so we were always at the 25. It was really easy to find that many people that were craving an outdoor in-person experience. And so I just wanted to, talk about that briefly and make sure everyone feels okay with me booking people for summer reading in person.
Would there still be requirements for masking or distancing?
Yes,
So
both.
it would still completely follow the state guidelines then? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we did last year. You could take your mask off once you were safely on your hula hoop in your spot that was 6 feet away from others. But most of the people kind of kept them on. Sometimes they would take them off if it was very hot. And Jules, I remember she always kept her mask on. So everybody was really good about that.
I, for one, as a parent, feel comfortable participating in that. I look forward to it.
Remind me, did you guys do contact tracing as well? Like you had people put their name down, or you had some way of?
Yeah, I didn't take anyone's temperature outside when we did the in-person programming. I knew, there was a sign up.
Yeah.
So only the people who signed up could come.
Yeah.
So I knew who was there.
Yeah.
Good point, Michael.
To me, that feels well within the guidelines of the state through June. And so I think that so long as we're following that, and then I don't know if the contact tracing is required, but it certainly seems like a smart thing. And if that's how the sign up is going, then it sounds like we'll be ready to do that as well. So I think that would be my concern. And then I think it's up to parents, on a personal level, they can choose to attend or not. But I think that so long as the library is following state guidelines, that's important.
Okay, cool.
And
So
Mariah, this is an outdoor event. Do you have a rain date, or is there a possibility for an outdoor covered location?
Yeah, so last summer, Alan and I discussed that if it were to rain, we could go under the, what do we call that?
One of the fair buildings.
One of the fair buildings that's open.
Yeah, sure.
But it didn't rain, so we actually didn't have to worry about that.
Is
So
it
hopefully,
the showing pen where they show the heifers?
yeah, something like that. One of those.
Walk in to the right.
Yeah. And then, but this is June 19th. It's a day that it's not going to rain, so we're good. But just anyways, I think that's a good backup plan. And Michael Caduto is the one that's coming, and we did discuss that briefly, that there was an outdoor space available in case of rain.
Awesome.
So this, again, I'm sort of guessing at this, but this sounds like the type of thing that probably we should have a motion on, because seems sort of like a big shift in the way the library is organizing patron events and community.
I think the fact that Mariah is bringing it to us and asking for an opinion when normally that wouldn't be, but obviously it's kind of different circumstances. I think that by doing a motion, just to say, maybe the motion is not, do we allow this, but do we support Mariah's decision on this? And then that just records our support for it in the minutes for the meeting.
Sure.
So yeah.
With that in mind, I make a motion to support the library's plan to resume outdoor in-person programming in pursuing state guidelines in addition to contact tracing.
Second.
And then vote.
Ready to take a vote? So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 The next item on that update relates to meetings in the community room and book sales.
Yeah, no, we don't have any discussion on that. sorry about that. People did meet out on the library lawn, obviously, for the Friends meeting. And it's within the guidelines, but we didn't do contact tracing. So I will put that out there for the
Yeah,
next.
frankly, I don't know what I'd have to look at the most recent state guidelines. I think it's, from my sense, my perspective, it's almost like a community service, because heaven forbid people get sick, you know, you'd want to be notified. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. And
That's
I,
another reason why they need to sign in the appointment book for using either the community room or even outside
mhm.
the area.
yeah, good point.
There are minutes posted for the Friends meeting, and attendance, everyone that attended are in the minutes. So if you needed to have that record, we could, you know, we do have that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. If we move on. Okay. Updates regarding access to board minutes and website changes to Minute Archive. We talked about that a little bit. Does anybody have any other thoughts or concerns? I think the general consensus was it looks good. We're compiling the archive, and we have a strategy for putting additional information up.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would add to that is that we should also be diligent about if there's any document that, you know, is that we're sending to each other for any reason, then that should be something that we put in that Google Drive, so that if and when there's any changeover with trustees, it doesn't rely on someone having something in email, but there's, you know, copies there, as much for making sure that we can do what we need to for public access, but also just continuity of the trustees.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my computer screen just went a little crazy. But I think if memory serves, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the next issue is just going over action items from last week. Or last month. Right?
Oh yeah, under the old business.
Yeah. And I've just cracked that document open. So there was an issue about getting the warrant signed from last month. Presumably that was done. Yeah.
Teresa's nodding yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that.
And then Anita, the secretarial login info. Any issues?
No, I'm better now.
Okay.
I have it down now.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Teresa, we know you already talked to Ben Lenahan.
Yes. That's
Okay. And the way it's phrased in the last set of minutes was talking to Jeff about revising access to meeting minutes. I assume presumably that means access on the website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the last item on there was Mariah to post information regarding April 1st reintroduction of appointments. That was done because people have been making their appointments. And it is updated on the website. I haven't checked the Facebook page, but I assume it's updated there too. Or it was updated back then. Cool. Okay. Let me get back to my other screen here. Okay, so on to new business. First item of new business is discussing funding currently available from a memorial fund for outdoor space development.
Yeah, so I was supposed to just bring this up for like an initial conversation. Gary Mullen approached me about some money. I think it's $1,800 that I feel badly, but I don't remember. Someone passed away he said between 5 and 10 years ago, someone passed away, and they have donated some money to improving some town buildings, and the select board, he was going to make it official, but they wanted to donate the money to us for a potential idea that I'd had years ago, which was to make a fence around the library. I know, Kathy, you've had when your kids were little, and it can be really scary to have your kids just run out into the road. I also think it would be really beautiful. And I mean, there's so many different avenues we could take this fencing situation. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like around the whole building, but I just wanted to begin like sort of plant the seed for the possibility that the money could be there and that this could be a really valuable thing for the building and the community members. And it would start to like grow that outdoor space that I think would be super useful and exciting for everyone. So there's really nothing to.
Can I ask if there's any like earmark on how it's used, or would it be kind of up to the library to decide that?
Yeah, he was so he said it was just for outdoor space, and so or for building improvement. And so I think that this money has been there for a while, and they were like, we really want to use this. It's something that they've been trying to find a use for, and it might have just popped into his head as something that we had talked about. And so there doesn't seem to be like real parameters on how we do it or anything really. So no, there's no earmark on how it has to be done from what I gather. And I'm going to go to the select board meeting and find out more. But
I guess the one thing that's coming to mind for me is and I don't fully know the background of the boiler, the furnace, if there's a pending like emergency situation, I think if I were having something as a memorial, I would certainly want a fence over a furnace. I don't know if it's even a question, but if there's and I don't know if there's money, I don't know how much a furnace costs, I don't know, like, but maybe that's something that we should just think about. If there are restrictions, or if it's specifically meant to be for outside or something that's more kind of adds to the space aesthetically, then that's not a furnace. But
yeah, that's a good point. I'll get to the bottom of that. I'll talk to Gary, because I gathered it was for outdoor space, but again, I was just getting milk and he started talking about it, and he wanted me to bring it up at the next trustee meeting. So I will get to the bottom of exactly how these funds have to be used. I'll add it to me.
okay. Thanks.
But it would be cool, right? Think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea, especially now that it's warming up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Mariah, you're going to dig in a little bit, get a little bit more information.
Yeah.
You'll know the money is potentially out there. Sounds good. Okay. Now, updates pertaining to hiring committees, recommendation to hire someone, Mariah Lawrence, a library director, as library director. So just to recap, the recommendation was unanimously accepted on our meeting on the 5th. That was the special meeting. The minutes are posted.
All right.
And so, yeah. That was my wife. Yeah, how exciting, Mariah. You've done a lot of work, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited. And I mean, thank you to Jean. And I hope I do you proud.
Perhaps if we start, there were some just like nuts and bolts issues that we were going to follow up on in the intervening time between April 5th and today. Where are we at with those and getting this all wrapped up?
So the trustees have all received a copy of the letter of offer from Mariah. Mariah signed it with a very special pen. So it's official as it gets. Use a panic. It's like everything that needed to be negotiated, the wage was good. Mariah just met with the town treasurer to iron out the pieces with the benefits package, and we did include in the letter the hours. So it does state that Mariah is to work from 25 to 30 hours a week.
Perfect.
By request of the town treasurer, she will be submitting a weekly timesheet, which will be different for us as trustees. So
Okay.
I will, when that's submitted, it gets scanned and I'll shoot it out to all of us, and 3 signatures, it goes to the treasurer. So that'll be done. And one thing that Mariah did ask to have flexibility with is that if she chooses to use some of her hour allotment for special programming, specifically, I think the summer was mentioned, that she could bring in additional staff for that specific purpose. And just as a budget item, it would, it would share those hours in addition to the staff that we have now, which is currently would be the new director, the current assistant librarian, and the custodial. And so the last thing I would say is that the effective date of the new director's hire is April 19th.
Yay.
Jean officially is going to retire with the date of April 30th. That worked well for the town. And I think the 2-week overlap for the two of them will be just a wonderful way to be able to make that transition. And I'm sure things will come up every day that we'll need to kind of think about and help along with. But did I leave anything out? I don't think so.
So far as you guys know, are there any like outstanding things that need to be signed, people that need to, give their stamps of approval, anything of that nature?
If all of the trustees would sign, then I would be responsible for getting that signed copy, Mariah's signatures on it, down to the town treasurer, because that is her, legal go ahead to put
Right.
Mariah in that role. And the only question that came up was if Mariah would be continuing in the capacity she is now as well as director. But referring to the job description, I told the treasurer, no, it was all one, she's one job now. And so that, I think that settled that question. But no, I think once we give that to Becky, things are good. Mariah's already been down and taking care of her part of the paperwork. So I think
Amazing.
it's
Just-
happening.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled on behalf of our entire community. I'm so happy that Mariah is stepping in. I mean, I'm so happy for you, Mariah, but I'm equally happy for all our children, all our patrons, all our members of our community. I think it's just awesome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I'm so happy. I mean, I can't even tell you. It's been really fun. My kids have been super proud of me, and it's so fun. We're just always celebrating and eating cupcakes, and someone showed up with a bottle of Prosecco, and
I heard.
I'm feeling good.
It's good for everyone. It really is just good for everyone. I'm really pleased.
Absolutely. So it's great to hear that there's some overlap time, and I wonder if we can just take kind of a moment to Mariah and I chatted briefly about sort of transition stuff. I suggested that there be a little bit of a mind towards like a tech transition, trying to make sure that any kind of accounts or logins or technology, making sure that Mariah has access to that the way things are backed up is handed over to Mariah, that any kind of documents. I also suggested that any documents that live on a device in the library, if there are documents that have to do with management of the library, that they be either primarily stored or at least backed up in the cloud, and making sure that there's kind of an archive there. And so I think that between Jean and Mariah, you two probably know best about, what other sort of tasks there are in terms of a handoff. But are there any questions about that transition? Would it be helpful to, have any of us helping you think through any of that, or do you feel like you have that under control?
There is one piece that I've been kind of curious how to attend to, and maybe you all have already talked about this, but whenever I'm getting ready to write the weekly email or the Herald, I think, I don't feel like I should be like, and I'm the new director. Like, it just doesn't feel quite right. And, I have considered writing something for Jean, which feels appropriate and good, and maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. I would love some input on that. Because this next week, when I write the email this weekend, will be the week that I'm starting. And, so I just submitted the Herald for this week, and I just was thinking, something feels
I
like.
think it should come from an op-ed from the Board of Trustees or from Jean. I think it should come from, it should be external. It should be introduced. We should introduce you, Mariah, and you should not be the one to introduce yourself. And that's my point. That's a really good point that you raise. But I think it should be an op-ed from the trustees or from Jean.
I think it would be nice maybe I know that in the Tunbridge Quarterly, there was an announcement about Jean's retirement, but I don't know if that went other places, but that might be a nice thing for the trustees to use that as an opportunity to thank Jean for her many decades, right, of service, and introduce Mariah and kind of confirm the handover. So in terms of what are the kind of dates then, is that typically a weekend? When are communications going out from the library that we can insert something from the trustees?
Mm-hmm. So I send an email out. I try to do it on Saturdays, but I usually end up doing it on Sundays every week. So, and I'm fine with waiting too, if you guys want to put something together and need a little time. And then I always do the Herald, but it's due on Tuesdays at noon, but I definitely do it by Monday. So those are the two things. And the Herald could be a separate, I feel like it could be a separate piece than the, what I would send for like library updates, or maybe not. I don't know. It's just a thought that I read an article, and I feel like I don't want you to know this, Jean. I want this to be a surprise. But I read an article recently about a librarian retiring, and it was really touching. And I feel like it's kind of a fun fact that Jean started working here the year I was born. So I just feel like that, that's like a really amazing chunk of time to be doing this. And so, yeah, something separate could be worthwhile.
Hey gang, I have to help put my little one down, so I'm gonna excuse myself, but I think we've got through the bulk of this, and anything I missed, please email me, but I do have to go. I got little ones to take care of.
I think
congratulations, Mariah, and thank you all for joining us tonight, and I look forward to next meeting.
Have a good night, Mark.
So maybe amongst the trustees, if we have Saturday as kind of a deadline for a little statement that would go into the things going out over the weekend and next week, I can try and help with that. Is there someone else who would want to join me with that? Or I can start a draft and then kind of pull other people in, and we may.
I'm certainly happy to help out.
Okay.
Just know, I think, let me just double check. I think Thursday night I work overnight, but as long as we're working on the earlier part of the day on Friday, to get finishing touches, that'd be fine.
Okay.
For a piece for the Herald, Mariah, you said that it has to be in by Tuesday, and that would be for like this Thursday's paper.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, like, you guys, if you were doing something separate, you'd have Tuesday at noon is the time that's due.
So do we want
Okay.
something in this week's paper, or are we gonna wait a week?
I would rather take our time and do
Okay.
it well.
Yeah.
And even if that's then after the transition has happened, I'd rather,
So you and Michael can kind of maybe use the same piece or modify it slightly for the paper.
Yeah.
Okay,
we can figure out what's best for those two settings. Yeah.
great.
Okay.
The only other thing that I was thinking of was more in regards to the hiring committee. I believe that the charge has been completed. I believe that the hiring committee has finished their work. So do we need to somehow say that they are, you know, dismissed as a subcommittee? And then I would go ahead, there's two online postings, one on the Vermont Libraries and one on is it the Simmons, the library site. I'll get both of those pulled down tomorrow for the advertising. That's the only other advertising I know that's out there.
Okay.
And what documents, if any, would need to be either kept physically or in some kind of a cloud or whatever it is that it's saved in from the hiring committee, because I know that we do have a fair amount of documentation that we used over the course of the 3+ months that we worked on this.
I think that we should certainly keep a mind towards whenever there is any kind of other hiring process, it would be great to have those documents ready to go so that people aren't starting from scratch. So I think that we can find the kind of final copies and editable copies and put those into a folder of hiring materials, whether that is about the process, about the job description, or any other info that we gathered, because we did get some other job descriptions from other libraries. So I think that would be one thing to keep. And then I think other kind of updates have been captured in minutes, but the community input, I think we would want to hand that off to Mariah. I think that there's some comments about programming that I think could be really helpful for her. Some of it I think doesn't overlap with past surveys that they've done, so I can also take out some identifying info from some of those and then get a copy to Mariah.
Can we archive the sort of like, the hiring documents and so forth on, on the library drive somewhere, or does it need to be more? Yeah. All right.
And written, I would
I think
imagine,
so.
written and the other, and on a drive.
Who wants to just make sure that gets done? Somebody who has access.
I can do that. I have access to the hiring committee and to the trustees folder.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, I'm just going to make the assumption that we need to make a motion to complete the responsibilities of the hiring committee and disband the hiring committee. Thank you guys all for your work. It was, I know, not an easy task and was fraught at times. So really appreciate you guys doing a great job.
I second that motion and that thanks.
Okay, all those in favor of ending the responsibilities of the hiring committee? Aye. Okay. So we do have a section for public comments nearing the end of this meeting. Any other thoughts, issues?
Kathy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing so much of my public comment. I just want to give a huge congratulations to Jean on her retirement. And I know it's been said, but also just a thank you for 37 years of service. I know I heard that number last year, so maybe it's 38 now. 23 of which I've had the pleasure of experiencing. And congratulations to Mariah. The library has a bright, bright future. So it's so exciting to have been a part of this transition. I wondered about your announcement plan, if you want to also announce in some of the places in the community that you sought community input. I was thinking about the Tunbridge listserv and the Tunbridge Facebook group, because we talked many times that not everyone subscribes to the Herald. And the TQ does get delivered to every mailbox, I think, and some people who I think pay taxes here but don't necessarily live here. So that could be a nice way to just use the same methods we use for community input to make that announcement, so people hear about it far and wide. Two other short comments. The Google listing, when you brought that up, I went and looked at it and I didn't realize that no one had claimed it. So underneath the library's temporarily closed, I clicked the, do you know the library's open? And I said yes, and it already changed it. And then I looked down below and it said claim this listing. So nobody's claimed it. So right now the hours are the old hours. So sorry, it doesn't give me an option to turn that off, but someone may want to go in and claim it. And I think Google just has a process to verify, like you have to give them the library phone number and someone needs to answer it, kind of thing, to claim that, so you can go in. But it does give me the ability to edit the hours. So I think someone should be able to go in and edit them, but you should probably claim it so that random people can't just go in and update it. So sorry for jumping the gun on that, but I just clicked that button. And the last thing I'm curious, and this is maybe something for a future trustees meeting, as the state is loosening restrictions and guidelines for COVID, I wonder if the library is going to continue using state guidelines as its benchmark before there's a pediatric vaccine, because of all of the children's programming at the library. So case in point, states where governors have lifted mask mandates, some school districts are requiring masks for everyone 16 and under because they have no option to get vaccinated right now. So just a thought that the state guidelines at some point may not be the best guidelines for the safety of a really valuable population of the library's patrons, which are children. So it's just something I think that the trustees should consider as you're reopening before there's a pediatric vaccine.
That's a great point. And I think July 4th is kind of the last deadline to really be thinking about that. That's when all the current restrictions, I think, lift. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kashti. Any other items?
I just want to second, Jean, I have not interacted with you as much as a librarian, but I know that, anyone, my husband certainly has, and his whole family, and they've been very excited that I'm getting more involved in the library, and I've, only heard wonderful things about your tenure. And I was really, really pleased when I moved to Tunbridge and went onto the library's website and saw the best public library in Tunbridge, Vermont. And I thought, yes, this is the best little town. So thanks for all of the work that you've put into building that.
And I feel the need to say one more thing, even though I could just say this to Jean when I see her next time, but I'll say it anyways. I didn't show Jean my cover letter, but I just wanted to make sure that she knows that the first time I ever came to Story Hour and Elaine took Miles into the big kids room, and I was like, almost in tears thinking about I couldn't believe he was in the big kids room. He was 4. And I was just like so excited. And Jean was just chatting it up with me. And like the next day, she busted out this big bag of like so warm footy pajamas for every size human that there ever has been. And like, there was one that looked like it could fit me. And she gave them all to me. My boys still run around in them. And I just knew that night that I was like, this library is a magical spot. And it was because of you. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Any other action items? No. Okay.
So action items will be things that we are tasked to do going forward.
Yeah.
I will be sure that the energy audit is available. Mariah's probably already done it, but we'll have it on the website. And I'll check in on how do we get an evaluation on the furnace and what options are out there and the thermostats. And go ahead and see what I can do to help get that basement situation going, because that'll take a little time, I'm sure. Did you know that the wide floorboards in the children's room, that's rope that they use to insulate in between the boards? I learned so much on that energy audit. So we don't want to do anything to the top of the floor, but that's why we want to insulate from down under. So, but yeah, I'll be glad to go ahead with those pieces of the energy puzzle.
Thank you.
I will move over things from the hiring committee drive that need to be saved going forward. And I will start drafting an announcement about the transition in library director and share that with everyone.
Right, and we'll share that responsibility of drafting the announcement.
We can officially decide who was going to talk to Jim, though, and I definitely don't want to disregard what he had to say, because he tried really hard to, and he was watered all last summer. So I don't know if anyone wants
on the plants, on the
Yeah.
outside gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just replied. I told him it was Eileen, because I didn't know that if he knew that and that I would put it out here. But I think if he starts with Eileen and takes her guidance, I think that would probably be the best.
Okay, I'll encourage him to do that. Yeah, I know he'll want to like talk about it.
Because I don't know what she's done for mulch over the years or anything. I would really trust her judgment on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I just had a quick question, maybe for Mariah or Anna. The folder that we've been given access to now, the trustee folder, is that like, who has access to that? The trustees and the library staff?
It's the trustees, but then also Mariah or whoever has access to that Tunbridge library at gmail.com email address, which is the hosting address for it.
Okay, because I could easily have a budget folder in there where I could put all of the pieces that you may want to see, that, the whole year's budget, the budget for next year that's out there, all of those pieces.
Yep.
Okay, I'll do that.
Great. I think that is, I'm just looking over the outline to make sure there weren't any other action items that we were gonna dig into. Mariah, I know I don't know, like, we got to follow up with you about the memorial fund money too. Right. You were gonna look into that related to.
Oh yeah, talk to Gary. Yes. Talk to Gary. Energy audit on the website, which I didn't already do, Teresa. I don't know how you expect me during the meeting. And post the library hour changes, that information, and fix Google. So maybe if I just claim the hours, that would do the trick. And then make sure that you're shared in the trustee folder, right, Michael?
Yep.
Double check or?
Please do. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Like I said, I'll go back and dig through.
Okay.
8:59, good job.
Okay, any other comments, concerns, thoughts, questions, advice, input? Okay. I move to adjourn today, April 12th meeting, 8:59.
Seconded,
Okay,
voting,
excellent.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned. Have a great night, guys.
right,
Thank
Good
you.
night.
good night.
Good night.